It is late afternoon on December 31st, 1985, New Year's Eve day. The winter sun is beginning to set over the American South. Ricky Nelson and his band have just finished a stop in Guntersville, Alabama. Their destination is Dallas, Texas, where a massive New Year's celebration awaits them. At 5 p.m. CST, the Douglas DC-3 is cruising through the twilight. Inside, the mood is likely one of anticipation. They are just minutes away from the party of the year. But at 5:14 p.m., just as the shadows on the ground grow long, the music stops forever. They never made it to midnight. Waiting on the tarmac in Guntersville, Alabama, was their tour plane. A Douglas DC-3, registration N711Y. This is not a modern jet. It is a relic from 1944, a warhorse of World War II. It has a storied, almost cursed history. It once belonged to the DuPont family, and later to the wild rock and roller Jerry Lee Lewis. Since Ricky bought it for $118,000 in May, the plane has been a nightmare of mechanical failures, engine failures, ignition problems. Just months ago, the band had to physically push it off a runway. Ricky is terrified of flying. He hates it, but he refuses to ride the tour bus. He trusts his pilots to get him home. That trust is about to be betrayed. On board today are 7 passengers: Ricky, his fiancée, Helen Blair, and the Stone Canyon Band: Andy Chapin, Rick Infeld, Bobby Neal, Patrick Woodward, and sound technician Clark Russell. In the cockpit are 2 men, Captain Brad Rank, 34 years old, and First Officer Kenneth Ferguson, 40. At 2 p.m., the propellers spin to life. The heavy radial engines cough, smoke, and roar. The DC-3 lumbers down the runway and lifts into the gray winter sky. For the first leg of the journey, everything seems fine. But in the tail of the aircraft, a mechanical time bomb is ticking. To understand this tragedy, we must look at a piece of technology that killed Ricky Nelson. It wasn't the engines, it wasn't the weather, it was this: the cabin heater. Unlike modern jets that use hot air from the engines, the old DC-3 relies on a separate gasoline-powered heater located in the back of the fuselage. It is essentially a furnace that burns aviation fuel to keep the passengers warm. And on N711Y, this furnace has a history of acting up. According to later testimony from First Officer Ferguson, the trouble starts shortly after takeoff. The heater is malfunctioning. Again, it keeps quitting. Captain Brad Rank is frustrated. He leaves the cockpit multiple times to go back to the tail and fiddle with the heater. He comes back and orders Ferguson to turn the switch back on. But Ferguson is uneasy. "One of those times, I refused to turn it on," Ferguson later told investigators. "I was getting more and more nervous. I didn't think we should be messing with that heater while we were flying." But the captain persists. He wants the heat on. Somewhere over Texas, the heater switch is flipped one too many times. Investigators would later find the heater's inspection door was unlatched. Inside the combustion chamber, an ignition spark meets leaking fuel. But this time, the fire doesn't stay inside the metal drum. It escapes. It catches onto the insulation, then the wiring, then the wooden floorboards. Smoke begins to curl up from the rear of the cabin. At 5:14 p.m., the smell of burning plastic and fuel fills the air. Captain Rank later claimed he checked the cabin and saw smoke mid-cabin near where Ricky was sitting. But the forensic evidence tells a different story. The fire started in the tail, right where the heater sits. The passengers are trapped. Behind them is a wall of fire blocking the exit door. In front of them is the cockpit. They have nowhere to go but forward. In the cockpit, the situation is critical. Smoke is blinding the pilots. Captain Rank makes a decision that likely seals the fate of everyone in the back. He opens the cockpit side windows to clear the smoke. He also opens the fresh air vents. It seems logical. Get fresh air in, let the smoke out. But in aerodynamics, this is a fatal mistake. By opening the vents, Rank created a chimney effect. He turned the fuselage into a wind tunnel. The fresh oxygen rushed in, feeding the fire and fanning the flames from the tail forward with terrifying speed. Instead of clearing the smoke, he just turned up the heat. The cabin becomes a blast furnace. The passengers are fighting for their lives. Firefighter Lewis Glover, one of the first on the scene, would later report a chilling detail. All the bodies were at the front of the plane. Ricky, Helen, and the band weren't sitting in their seats. They were huddled against the cockpit door trying to escape the inferno approaching from the rear. They were alive, conscious, and terrified. Desperate, the pilots aim for a cow pasture near DeKalb, Texas. The DC 3 clips a power line, it shears off treetops. It crashes into the ground, sliding through the dirt before coming to a violent stop. The plane is engulfed in flames. But miraculously, the cockpit section is relatively intact. First, Officer Ferguson and Captain Rank kick open the side windows. Severely burned, they crawl out of the wreckage. They drop to the grass, gasping for air. Behind them, inside the burning tube, Ricky Nelson and his band are silent. They likely succumbed to smoke inhalation and burns before the plane even stopped. As they stumbled away from the burning wreck, fearing an explosion, a conversation took place. A conversation that reveals the dark heart of this tragedy. According to Ferguson's testimony to the NTSB, Captain Brad Rank turned to him. With the screams of the fire behind them, Rank whispered a command. "Don't tell anyone about the heater. Don't tell anyone about the heater. A secret." Amidst the smell of burning flesh and twisted metal, the pilot's first instinct was not grief, but a cover-up. The tragedy didn't end with the crash. In the days following the funeral, the tabloids went into a frenzy. Rumors spread like the fire itself. Headlines claimed that Ricky Nelson had been freebasing cocaine using a lighter to smoke drugs and had accidentally set the cabin on fire. It was a salacious story. The washed-up rock star causing his own death. It destroyed his reputation. But it was a lie. The NTSB investigation was thorough and ruthless. Toxicology reports showed no cocaine in Ricky Nelson's system. No lighter was found near him. The myth was false. The investigators turned their eyes to the real culprit, the heater. They found the heater switch in the on position. They found the inspection door unlatched. They found the burn patterns originating exactly where the heater was installed. The truth was technical, not scandalous. Ricky Nelson died because of a faulty piece of equipment and a pilot who refused to leave it off. The NTSB investigation revealed a damning sequence of errors that sealed the passenger's fate. Captain Rank didn't just fail to fight the fire, he fueled it. The standard checklist for an in-flight fire is clear. You must close all vents to starve the flames of oxygen. Rank did the exact opposite. He opened the fresh air vents and the cockpit windows. NTSB investigators stated bluntly, these steps would have enhanced the potential for passenger survival. Instead, he turned the fuselage into a chimney, drawing the fire from the tail directly toward the trapped passengers. Firefighter Lewis Glover confirmed the horrific result. All bodies were found huddled at the front of the plane, trying to escape the heat Rank had unleashed. The tragedy didn't end on that Texas field. Even in death, Ricky Nelson faced indignity. Due to a logistical error, his body was misrouted during transport from Texas to California, delaying his funeral for days. Meanwhile, a bitter legal battle erupted before he was even buried. His ex-wife, Kristen Nelson, threatened to sue the Nelson family for his life insurance money and attempted to seize control of the estate. Although a judge later dismissed her claims, the chaos compounded the grief for a family already shattered by loss and false rumors. It was a tragic coda to a life spent in the spotlight. On January 6th, 1986, Ricky Nelson was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Cemetery. He was 45 years old. The crash of N711Y is a classic example of normalization of deviance. The heater had been broken for months. The pilots knew it. The previous owners knew it. But they kept flying. They kept flipping the switch, hoping it would work one more time, until it didn't. Ricky Nelson once sang in his hit song Garden Party, "You can't please everyone, so you gotta please yourself." In the end, he just wanted to get to the next show. He trusted his pilots to get him there. He didn't know that the man in the cockpit was keeping a secret that turned a vintage plane into a flying tomb. Fly safe, check your heaters, and never ignore a warning sign. For the Air Debrief, I'm your host.